Would you look at that sunshine, that amazing, beautiful, colorful, it's Yoimiya. I'm talking about Yoimiya. She's right there. Look how cute she is. Anyways, guys, the banners just dropped, so we get to talk about who's coming up next here as 4 stars. Let's just get right into it. As we always do, I want to talk about what's valuable about these banners, whether or not you should consider pulling on them if you're free to play and not really as interested in the 5 stars, but like, I don't know, if you're maybe just like kind of in the middle, it shouldn't be too big of a deal, right? As discussed on the live stream, we have Cyno and Venti on the first half. And as you can see, the 4 stars that are coming along with it, Candace is going to be there, and Kuki and Sayu are both going to also be there. So we're going to talk about how good these banners are for just general pull value, potentially about the characters, a little bit about what we know about them, and then we'll talk about this thing right here. So let's just start off with Cyno. When you're looking at a new 5 star, you're probably looking at them because you think their design is cool initially, and then maybe you find out they do something really awesome that you're interested in, or maybe you don't and you still want to pull them anyways because gacha is about collection. I personally feel like Cyno's design is really cool. A lot of people disagree with that. But as far as meta goes, which is a lot of what we talk about on this channel, I genuinely cannot say how strong he's gonna be. If I had to guess, he's going to be a kind of middle of the pack character. He's not gonna be bad, he's gonna have some value, but I don't see him outvaluing a lot of the other Electro units we have right now, unless his scalings are just insane, though it's possible, I could be wrong, and he could just have an insane scalings through the roof. So we won't be able to know if he as a unit is worth it until the character is out, and unfortunately, I can't tell you guys that ahead of time. However, I can tell you about some of these 4 stars. First off, Kuki. I've already made a couple videos about Kuki, but Kuki, when she first released, was kind of a flop because she didn't really do much other than, you know, she provided some healing with her skill, which is pretty solid, but there was no reason to use her over someone like Fischl or Beto in a team that needs another Electro. So in this case, but since Dendro dropped, Kuki's actually found a decent amount of use, namely in Hyperbloom. Hyperbloom, you can build her full elemental mastery, and that's partially what her healing scales off of. She gets a bonus healing based on her EM, and you can hit really strong Hyperblooms while also healing up your team. And that's the value of Kuki. It's also that she has an AoE ring of Electro around her, and she's going to be able to constantly refresh that that Electro. So all in all, I think Kuki is a lot better unit than she was before. I don't necessarily think this means that she's like an insanely like broken unit at all. I think she's just pretty good. And actually, I would have the same thing to say about Sayu. A lot of people don't actually play Sayu. There are definitely some Sayu players, maybe people who are fans of Sonic the Hedgehog. Most people that I know that are playing Sayu are playing her because they just haven't gotten lucky enough to get another Animo character yet. So they don't want to play Traveler, but they don't have Jean, they don't have Sucrose, they don't have Kazuha, and that's usually why people are playing Sayu if they aren't just in it for the fun factor. Sayu is a good unit though. She's an Animo character, which means you can use Viridescent Venom, debuff enemies, and she's a healer. And that's actually more valuable than it was before. Let me tell you something. So when Dendro came out, Aggravate teams became very strong, but one of the biggest issues that Aggravate teams have right now is that they all basically want Fischl. Now, Fischl is an amazing unit, and in Aggravate teams, she performs extremely well. There are use cases for other electric characters, but most of the time they want Fischl. And they also will want a main DPS, or a main on-field carry if you prefer that term, right? They want an electric character like maybe Kutsing to be driving Fischl's reactions to get a bunch of Aggravate damage. And then you wouldn't want to run a third electric character. Most of the time you're running an Animo character and a Dendro character, or maybe a Shield and a Dendro character. And the biggest problem is that right now, there's not a Dendro character that heals. Your 2 Electro spots are already taken up, so Kuki's not really an option. It just meta-wise, right? We're talking hypothetically. However, you could have an Animo healer like Sayu, for example, or like Jean. A lot of people opt to just go for shields, but Sayu in this case, because she can heal and debuff enemies still, and increase your electro damage effectively through enemies' resistance shred, she's actually pretty dang good, and I think that she's gained a lot of value through that. Now, does that mean more people are going to play her? Not necessarily, but I do think it's worth noting that both Kuki and Sayu are better units now with the release of Dendro than they were before. It's hard for Animo units to be bad anyways. But let's talk about Candace. So Candace is a Hydro Polearm character that has a counter, sort of like Beto, and infuses a character's normal and charge, basically just their weapon, with Hydro, and it doesn't affect catalysts and bow users, but the way that Bennett's Burst affects things effectively, so your melee stuff. Hydro Infusion is a completely new concept. We have not had a character with Hydro Infusion that they can apply to another character before. And that makes Candace a completely unique character, right? Most Hydro characters are pretty strong because Hydro as an element is so strong and good at enabling different elements to do different things. And so in that way, it's like, it's hard to believe that Candace could not be super strong. Except the problem with infusion most of the time is windows, right? The timing of the infusion in conjunction with how ICD is going to interact with other things. And is it worth building Hydro damage on a character that doesn't usually want to play Hydro? Avatar Kuching will be fun, playing Hydro Kuching will be cool, but maybe it's not necessarily the most optimal thing. Well, in her case, I can think of one synergy that could be incredibly good. I have a strong feeling that Candace's infusion will beat out Bennett's infusion. If you are playing in C6 Bennett burst and you use Candace, I imagine that Candace is going to be taking the Hydro infusion over the Pyro infusion. And what that means is effectively you could play International with Xingqiu Candace instead of using Child and a Viridescent character. Now, that being said, it's not going to be as strong as playing someone like Child, right? But Candace seems like she may be useful to try and play on-field Hydro Xingqiu. Now, you might be wondering like what's significant about that, right? Because like trying to force Xingqiu to be a normal attacker seems kind of weird, but the benefit of it isn't just the normal attacks. Because Xingqiu doesn't snapshot Bennett's attack buff onto his rain swords, it means you're not getting Bennett's buff when he's off the field. But if you can play him on field in Bennett's burst, all of your rain swords that are coming down from above you are all getting the attack buff from Bennett, and you're also getting an attack buff from Bennett in his field, and you're also dealing Hydro damage, which is what you built Xingqiu into anyways. On top of that, Candace is going to be able to give you some damage bonus to your normal charge attacks, I believe. I'll need to double check that, but I'm fairly certain that's a thing. And with that in mind, that would be even better for on-field Xingqiu. So I do see a potential use for Candace right there, but as of right now, it's hard for me to fully assess her power level because we haven't been able to figure out anything that she works amazingly well in yet. But that said, I think because Candace is a new character and because Kuki and Sayu are good, I think the 4 stars on this banner are pretty solid. I don't think that they're like super broken. I don't think it's one of those banners where it's like, this banner is amazing and you need to pull on it. I think it's just pretty good. And then you also have Venti's banner. Now, Venti is still a good character. I think one thing that I want to talk about with Venti real quickly, a lot of people underrate Venti because they think when he can't pull an enemy into his burst, he's useless. But you got to consider that you can actually just position yourself to use his burst on a bigger enemy and have it still damage them the entire way. It's a thing that a lot of people do. Even in Abyss speedruns where enemies can't be grouped, people will still use Venti sometimes, right? So all in all, Venti is still a pretty solid unit. Now, I don't think he's a must pull like a lot of us thought he was at release of the game, like back when he was new, but he's definitely pretty good. So overall, I think these banners aren't too bad. But okay, check out this weapon banner. Holy dude, what an amazing banner, okay? Now, I hate saying that because the weapon banner is awful. The weapon banner is a scam. It is going to take everything from you. It's going to yoink all of your primos. You're going to lose the 75-25, and then you're going to get the weapon you don't want, and it's going to be awful. But if you're going to roll the weapon banner, this is a good one. It's actually a decent one. Before we even talk about the 5 stars, the 4 stars we have are the new Claymore, which I believe they just they teased it on Twitter. Give me one moment. All right, so here's the new Claymore, right? Following effect will trigger once every 10 seconds. The equipping character will gain 24% of their elemental mastery as a bonus attack for 12 seconds, with nearby party members gaining 30% of this buff for the same duration. Multiple instances of this weapon can allow this buff to stack. So this weapon, unironically, seems like it could be a weapon for both Sayu and for Diluc. And those are the two I can think of off the top of my head. I can't imagine that someone like Beta would want to use it over something like Serpent Spine because her damage values are just so high. But someone like Diluc who wants a little bit of elemental mastery, who actually is like pretty good with Rain Slasher, could also get decent value out of this. Now, I'm not saying this is BIS for Diluc or anything. It's definitely not, but it's going to be a pretty solid option. And then Sayu is going to get a ton of value out of this weapon. Sayu is going to basically get extra healing because her heal scale on her attack, while also getting the EM bonus and the ability to deal on-field damage. So this weapon is really good, and the fact that it's new is also pretty solid. Lion's Roar is also pretty good. It's really good on Kuching if you don't have a Kuching weapon and you want to start playing her. Favonius Lance is also very good. The reason Favonius Lance is such a solid weapon is because so many polearm characters want a ton of energy or energy recharge, and this weapon not only gives you energy recharge, but it also generates particles. People like Toma and Yunjin can use it, Shenna can use it, even Xiao can use it, Zhongli can use it. It's pretty good. Sacrificial Fragments, also very good. This is going to basically allow you to use your elemental skill fail twice, and it's an EM main stat, so it's a really good Sucrose weapon. Sorry, I am talking very, very fast. I'm just excited. Favonius Warbow, also incredible weapon. Good on Yelan, good on Diona, good on Venti. It basically just has a lot of use cases on it, and it's a good weapon. But you know what else has good use cases? Elegy. Elegy can be played on Kale. It can be played on Sarah. Sarah's not as effective with it, but it can be played on her. It can be played on Amber. It can be played on Venti as well. Elegy for the end is a super strong weapon. It grants you elemental mastery to your teammates, gives you a little bit of attack as well, and is an energy recharge main stat weapon. This weapon is a very good support weapon, and I think that way too many people undervalued this weapon on its first runs. It is definitely good, and it's still good. It's still a very relevant weapon. Now, Staff of the Scarlet Sands. This is Cyno's weapon, and it essentially is just going to convert elemental mastery over to attack, which is like pretty good. You're not losing the elemental mastery, you're just gaining attack for it, right? It has a crit rate main stat. Now, the thing is, this is going to be a decent stat stick no matter what. It's not going to be super broken on every single character, but no matter what, characters will still get value out of it. Unfortunately, the big one I've seen, the really controversial one I've seen people talking about is Xiangling. Is this going to be a good Xiangling weapon? And the answer is, honestly, I don't know if anyone's like TC'd it, but my guess is that you are still going to want to build like an energy recharge sands on Xiangling in a lot of the teams she's in with Emblem, right? And if you do that, you're not like, where's your elemental mastery going to come from? You're going to get a little bit of EM from her, but it's not going to result in a big attack bonus. So you do have that to think about with the Staff of the Scarlet Sands. That being said, if you're pulling Cyno, this weapon banner is a huge win for you. If you are pulling Cyno, I actually think this is a good banner. That being said, I don't think anyone should go in on this banner unless they are fully prepared to not get characters coming soon. And we know that we're probably going to see some really good characters here soon. We're probably going to see some important ones, like potentially even the Dendro Archon. So I don't necessarily want you guys to think that, yes, we should go into the weapon banner because it's super good. However, if you don't really care about a lot of the upcoming characters, it could actually be a decent deal for you. The 4 stars are good, the 5 stars are both good, especially if you're getting Cyno. So that's worth thinking about. Yeah, all in all, I think these banners are pretty decent. I think the character banner's like decent. It has a new 4-star on it, and I think Cyno will be fine. I think Venti's still really good. And the weapon banner, I think actually has a lot of value. Worst case scenario, if you don't have Cyno, you pull in this banner and you get Staff of the Scarlet Sands, it's still a good stat stick for a lot of characters. Even you could even use it on like reverse meld Rosaria if you wanted to. So anyways, I know I just talked so incredibly fast, but I'm so excited for all of this new content in 3.1. 3.1's opening up a whole new area, a new Archon quest, new characters, and I really just can't wait until we actually get to see these characters come to life here and get to play with the new stuff, all the new toys. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I have a Sayu guide coming out soon. I will have my Cyno guide coming out. I will have a Candace guide coming out, and then as we go on, just more and more stuff. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.